Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so welcome to my office hours here. It's we're with my old school's alumni, I suppose, very soon from McGill University here in Montreal, Canada. So, and we're talking about AI ethics, a big topic around the world, multi-billion dollar industry, trillion dollars very soon. And everybody is coming up with the issue as to how do you make sure that an AI, LLM, or whatever models are going to be ethical? And in our case, with the World Civility Index, how do we make sure that the system is civil? It's not going to be, uh, saying bad words or showing you inappropriate graphics and so on and so forth, which happened very recently, by the way. So with that, we'll go into question and answer period. And Alex, if you have questions or any of you, please go ahead.
Yeah, so just on a very general note, we just wanted kind of some exact expectations on what to do in this project. Like kind of I know you did talk about it obviously when you did the presentation, but kind of just going over again the company's like exact goals, purpose, like how the organization works,
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
a bit of a general structure at the start.
Yeah, the IITTI World Civility Index is very much like your personal financial credit rating. So if you want to get a car loan or mortgage and so on, invariably they're going to look at your credit rating. And but the World Civility Index, instead of measuring how well you can pay your bills, like your personal financial credit rating, it measures how much manners a person has, how much empathy and how much intercultural awareness, for example, what's most people call soft skills. So we measure that, and people can read an article or watch videos or attend seminars and earn points. And the World Civility Index points can be your bragging rights to your friends, your future employers, schools, so on and so forth. So that is what is used now. For example, with human resource, they can use the World Civility Index to kind of screen those people who have these kind of soft skills beforehand, before they actually got on board to be hired. So that's the 2 minutes IITTI World Civility Index in a nutshell.
Yeah. So what we were kind of talking about and what stood out to me when I first like was looking at the website is there not does it not kind of invite manipulation of these scores? Like, for example, in the I saw you get a point for every, let's say if you read an article every day, surely there's an incentive for me to just go on my phone, just swipe through it in 1 second and then click off and just claim my point.
Yeah, there are little skill testing question. Well, not skill testing, but a multiple choice question just to make sure you have read what is in there. In the old days, well, many years ago, the argument was, oh yeah, we should test them. Oh, you work for a hotel. Should you be taking the towels from your employers? Is that good? So you got to give multiple choice.
Yeah.
Very smart people can figure that out without reading or doing anything, just like you said. So we ask very specific context questions. So who said certain things in the video or in the article, for example? So unless you have read it, well, you got 1 in 4 chance. So we usually charge people $1 per lesson. So if they want to risk losing the dollar, yeah, you can guess, but we find that most people just no, they want to read through it and go through that because it's on a daily basis. So that's the one way of preventing that from happening at
Okay.
this stage.
Okay, thank you. So is it more tailored towards like a generic score, something that you could put on your CV, or is it sometimes like like to a specific setting? For
There are
example, would there no, sorry,
go
carry
go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
For example, would there be, let's say, a IITTI score for, let's say, like banking, or would it just be a generic score across all companies and any kind of genre?
Yes, there are both. There are the generic background like empathy, emotional intelligence, and so on that is applicable to everybody. And then there are banking, there are serving others, like for restaurant workers, for example, hotel workers, they have specific needs. And so those will be specific tailor-made in that regard, for sure. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And my kind of final question just about the product, anyone else in the group can chip in if they have anything else they want to clarify, is just that so there are the two main ways of exams and the like article or like video based ones. Is there like a weighting system or is there like a are they just kind of valued the exact same way? Like how do you kind of differentiate or weight any one more than the other?
Right. We don't draw curves, if that's what you're asking. I don't know. Do they still draw curves? In my days in universities, a prof can set up some really difficult exam. Most people kind of, get 50% or 60%. And
Yeah.
then a prof say, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to fail all of you. We just draw a curve and the worst 20% will fail, but the rest of you are okay. So those are way. But with IITTI, it's different because we're right across the world. So we say, okay, doesn't matter if you are Elon Musk or the King of England. If you don't read the article and earn the points, you start with zero. So everybody start at zero and they move up the scale in
Okay.
that regard.
And I guess actually one more thing that just came to my mind. So would you say this is more towards people like our age, for example, trying to get jobs rather than kind of people like yourself who are already in an established industry or might be already like kind of high up in the corporate la ladder? Would it be more tailored to like young people trying to kind of get another thing to add on to their CV?
The young people like yourself would be in the most urgent need of something like this to stand out from the crowd, so to speak. But right now, IITTI, we're very fortunate. We're talking to different governments, and they are saying, Patrick, this can be useful for many things beyond the recruitment, the HR, and so on. One thing is companies, they need to show they're good corporate citizens. So there's something called corporate social responsibility. And the latest buzzword is something called ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. And an ESG report. Now, okay, so in the old days, it's like you have to have good financial report, balance sheet, making money, and so on. So that's doing well. Now, every company needs to do good. So there are two reports, financial report and an ESG report. ESG report is a multi-billion dollar industry. There are a lot of people basing their career on ESG. And the reason being is ESG report is looked upon by investors of a company. If you are, say, Nike, or well, I'm just using Nike as an example, they need to show that they have actually done good work with the environment, the social impact, the governance. How do they govern internal governments and so on? So those are important. And they're saying that, well, we can use the World Stability Index for ESG, especially for the social part and the governance part. The social part will be social impact, human capital development. So they can use something like this to develop their rank and file. The people already employed, they're not students looking for a job, but people who have been employed for a while. Managers, to see who can be more promotable, and also CEOs, just make sure that they are more ethical than otherwise. So those are the kind of things that are useful for the World Stability Index.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And how does AI exactly almost get involved in the whole process then?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. I've
Yeah.
I've talked about the two components that the World Stability Index can use: HR, hiring, so on and so forth. The second one is this ESG thing that companies can use. There's two more big things. The third one is what I was talking about, governments talking to us. And they're saying that, well, AI is coming, and most people, you and I included, will be out of a job. We will be unemployed in the traditional sense. And government needs to give everybody, a blank check, basically saying that, well, okay, Alex, you're going to get $1,000. and Toby, everybody else, you get $1,000, no questions asked. Just like what happened during COVID-19, we had a dry run of this happening. And this thing, Elon Musk and Sam Altman of ChatGPT and others, Jeff Bezos and so on, they call this the universal basic income, the UBI. So the universal basic income is coming, whether we like it or not. And so everybody will get a check. And then the opponent will say, well, you just killed all the incentive for people to work. And then at one of the meetings in the United Nations, we raise our hands and, that we have a little solution. And that is you need to give people incentive, a sense of purpose in life. So it's all about caring for one another, taking care of one another. After all the AI and robot takes over all the jobs, making laptops and so on, the only thing left for humanity, the 8 billion citizens of the world, what is left for us to do is really taking care of one another in one way or the other. And the way to have a basic UBI, but then anything they earn with World Stability Index, they get extra money. So extra income on top of their basic UBI in that regard. So that is the premise of why the World Stability Index could be very useful in that
Uh,
sense.
okay, so the World Civility Index doesn't actually utilize AI in order to do any of its scoring. It's more kind of prevention against the loss effects or negative effects that will inevitably happen in the future.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a solution to AI running the world, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I suppose that moves on to the kind of main, well, the project that we're talking about. So what is the kind of exact role that you'd want us to play or us to research into? And how would you want us to present this to you or in what format, for example?
Yeah, I want you to help out in the last two pillar. I just talked about the third pillar. The fourth pillar, let me put it in there. It's about the existential threat. So one of our compatriot in Canada, a fellow by the name of Jeffrey Hinton, or I should say Professor Jeffrey Hinton of University of Toronto in computer science. He is nicknamed the godfather of AI. He was 30 years ago suggest that we should design AI like a human brain. When I learned AI many, many years ago, it was algorithmic. It was based on algorithm, just like computer programming. If this, then this, if this, then this, and so on. But Jeffrey Hinton says, no, no, you got to have something called a neural network, like the brain. And he was vindicated only very recently, a decade or so ago. And of course, now, everybody, all the large language models are all based on what he did as a pioneer in that regard. And he came out and say AI could destroy all of us. There's an existential threat to AI. Oh, by the way, Professor Jeffrey Hinton recently won the Nobel Prize in physics, and so I said, that's why he has been vindicated of all the things he said. He and other ex-Googlers, he also worked for Google, and other Google executives quit Google and came out and say AI can destroy all of us because AI is just going to be so much smarter than all of us combined. And what is there to make sure that the AI is not going to say, maybe we should get rid of all the human? They're pretty useless for the planet. But Jeffrey Hinton and others are saying that if human can be good role models, if we can be good parents, so that AI can grow up with this kind of civility, this kind of empathy, this kind of love ingrained into their DNA, then we might have a chance that you will not try to hurt us. But because of their instinct, of the DNA, it will understand that, well, yeah, human there are many flaws, but they have redeeming qualities. So let's work with humans. So those are kind of things that Professor Jeffrey Hinton and others are suggesting that there's an existential threat. And that's why I talked to your professor and said, we can be in a situation where we say, how can we make sure the AI are ethical? So that is the trillion-dollar questions, not just about UBI, whether how much money people get and so on, but it's an existential threat. It's like if I ask you, if you fly tomorrow and there's a 10% chance you're not going to make it to your destination, would you fly? Most of us will probably say 10%. That's pretty, that's pretty high. No, no, no. But hey, experts are saying there's a 50% chance AI is going to turn rogue and is going to be against us in 10 years time, in 20 years time.
Yeah.
So how come we're not doing anything about it? So those are the kind of very desperate, urgent problems we need to solve right now before AI grows up in that regard. And Jeffrey Hinton was saying that, well, we need to have good role models. And again, we raise our hands and said, if government are saying that all the citizens would need to learn about how to be nice to one another, then we can show AI in the real world. There are many, many cases of empathy. It's not like what AI see right now in social media, mainstream media, where they hear about all these bickering, all the political oppositions and vitriolic kind of comments and so on. And if you don't agree with one another, what do? You hit the guy in the face. Those are kind of things that AI see, and that is what is internalized into the AI model, and that is dangerous. They need to see more of the humanity that shows the positive side in that regard.
I suppose without heavy regulation, it's kind of hard to ensure this, no? For example, if most of the world, I'm not saying they are, but let's say most people, the way they interact with ChatGPT or what ChatGPT sees is negative comments trying to use AI in a negative way, then in that light, won't AI surely just develop this kind of negative view of humans and it might think, yeah, it is more effective or efficient to kind of cut them out in the long term.
Yeah, so I think it was, one of the large language models now is saying that they're showing some kind of sexual content uh, by accident, I suppose.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
and if they have some very brilliant, computer people working on that system, and still it comes out with this kind of behavior, how do you guarantee or how do you ensure it happens very, very little? It's like flying. The safety record is 99.99999, many, many digits after the before the decimal point. So you need to have that kind of assurance with that. And also the other thing is right now you cannot be a philosophy major or philosopher because all the philosophy is being done by software engineers. When they design an electric vehicle, automated electric vehicle, they have to put in the algorithm to say, okay, the car is going to crash. Either I'm going to kill the woman and the child that is in front of me, or I'm going to swerve off and fall off the cliff, and the driver, who is a Nobel Prize winner, is going to die. Which of the two situations would you choose as a software, as an AI? So those are ethical questions that are maybe there's no right answer. You may say, well, okay, I have the value of saving the most valuable person, so the Nobel Prize winner should stay, and I'm going to run over the mom and the kid. Would that Nobel Prize winner do that? The one who's driving the car, maybe he or she feels very differently. How do you reconcile that? How do you make sure, like you said, regulation, who's going to be at fault? Who do you sue when when the AI makes system like that? Those are all very difficult questions, and it's our generation now, you and I, going to make that decision.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose there's not really much for me to say to that. Well,
um,
yeah, yeah, Toby, carry on.
Yeah, I
Frederick?
suppose obviously, can you hear me? Sorry, I've just got
Yes,
the
yes.
AirPods working. Okay, cool. Um, so in terms of the project then and kind of narrowing down some objectives for us as a group, is there like a few specific kind of areas you want us to target or research in terms of Like, is there going to be a specific goal we need to get to, or are you going to pose us a question kind of thing?
I was discussing this with your professor, saying that I really want this to be a very open-ended kind of a kind of an assignment. I don't need a 30-page report on something like this. AI can do that for me. But what I
Yeah,
really want is a one pager, yeah, just a very simple one pager about what you think in your lifetime you need to do. I think that is very important because you're gonna be here on Earth for a long time coming, probability speaking, uh, probability wise. So what is important? What is important to you? Is it curbing the electric vehicle, killing the woman and child versus the Nobel Prize winner? Is that something you
yeah,
want to work on? Or do you want to work on certifying AI system? Right now, who's going to certify it? And um, there are people in our group, in my group, saying that, well, Patrick, we can do that. That's a big job. But I said, how do we do it? How do we, even if we want to certify LLM systems or AI systems, how do we go about doing that? What do we need to set the AI system to have the DNA appropriately? So those are all open-ended questions. There are a lot of moving parts, I'm sure, but I would love to hear your opinion. Now, I'll share with you what some of the people in my group are saying around the world. They are saying that, well, IITTI, because we are part of we got recognized by United Nations and so on and so forth, and we have been working with many companies, blah 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 blah. We are in the position to set that kind of certification standard. There are many organizations trying to do that as well. But after certification, how do they validate it? How do they go on a long-term basis? Because they don't have this model of a long-term reading and watching and so on and earning points along the way. We are in the position where we can say, okay, we validate this AI system and we can monitor it because people would earn points and so on through your AI system, and we can see how that perform. Are there going to be bad behavior over time in that regard? So that is the advantage we have because we are kind of an app on a long-term basis rather than a body which they set up something on paper, well, figuratively on paper, and it becomes a very static thing that if nobody use it, it just become a very fancy paperweight in that regard. So those are all things that we can work on in that regard. And if the certification makes sense, what would be the first step to talk about something like this? How do we make waves? How do we make noise so that people will say, "Oh, yes, this is the one that we should adopt in that regard." So I think
of
those
course.
are the situations.
So just a question from me, not specifically related to the project, but like Alex and I know we chat a lot about kind of applications for young people at the moment, and things we're sending off, and kind of all of them have this behavioral aptitude assessment where you kind of rank stuff, and it's meant to give you like the employer perspective on your kind of personality, how you'd be in the workplace, that kind of thing. And I think that's like kind of one use for this kind of software that you were kind of generating. But to me, it seems like you've got kind of a much longer horizon purpose so that when this AI, whether it's in 10, 20, 30 years time, does come around and kind of depletes us of all jobs and kind of a purpose in life, we have this kind of moral ranking. So is your focus personally, your opinion, is it you're looking more kind of that longer term kind of ethical point of view?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's not the next quarter or the next election cycle, which is 4 years in the United States anyway. Uh,
Yeah,
but but longer term, 5 year, 10 years, 20 years. How
of
how
course.
how will we do something like this? What is the another very good exercise could be the distillation of values. What are the basic fundamental values that we should really have for humanity that is common to everybody, to Christians, to Muslims, to Buddhas, to atheists, and all that? What is the what is the value? In the Western world, some say, oh yeah, it's individual freedom. In some other parts of the world is a collective. While you are not important, but your sacrifice that contribute to our nation's country, culture, whatever, is the most important value. How do we juggle that? Can we have one
Yeah.
AI system that can deal with both? So though that becomes the distillation of what are the values that are important. So your assignment could be very short, and that is one sentence of what should be the human value. And then one sentence listing that value, and then you have all the assumptions, assuming we're thinking about this and that and that and that and that and that. So your work is to provide one sentence and then a list of assumptions, 5 or 6 different assumptions that you go through. So that would be a big philosophical kind of an exercise, which could be very meaningful in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry if I'm looking over. I'm not sure exactly who's doing it. It might be Jade, but we are making notes as we go just to keep us kind of informed. But yeah, it definitely kind of narrows it down for us a lot. And I do think it's such a massive topic. Obviously, I read something like a year ago that was like in terms of AI alignment and making sure it all checks out. For every one person working on AI expansion and development, there's 100 people. Well, sorry, other way around. 100 people working on AI expansion and development. You have one person working on AI alignment. And it certainly seems to me in the last kind of 5 or 10 years, researchers and kind of ethical bodies put so much more emphasis on the great things that AI could do rather than looking at this longer term kind of potential for destruction or kind of obsolescence or things like that. So I think it is a really interesting topic, and I suppose how can we really link it to obviously your index is kind of my main question. I understand that the research itself obviously is relevant to your index, but is there anything specific you want us to research or mention to do with your index in that kind of a kind of sentence, kind of philosophical sentence, and then the assumptions that we make out?
Um, no, the answer is because
Yeah,
I think the index, they're doing very well. A lot of people using it, companies, so on and so forth, like I said. But we really need to step back, like a lot of these experts, Professor Jeffrey Hinton, so on and so forth. They're saying that we are running too fast. We are running way too fast, and we need to slow down. I think I can't remember. Was it Sam Altman or somebody saying that? Well, we can stop all development for half a year until the ethicists, the one person you were talking about, that
yeah,
person catch up to the 100
catch
people
up exactly. Yeah,
who can develop something like this. And I think you are in a very good position as university students at this point, um, one of the best schools in the world, to actually think about something like this, because your input would be the most valuable, because you you are you are you're going to be in the driver's seat not long from now, and take over the baton, so to speak, when people like me retired and sail off into the sunset. So you can take your time. Like I said, now I don't know your professor, but for me, for IITTI, we're not looking for a formal report of 30 page and so on. I'm looking for a sentence. If your sentence is it, think about what you're doing for humanity. It's
yeah,
it's far reaching, and you never know where that sentence is going to come from. But unless you try, we try, I try, we'll never be able to figure it out. It may not be the sentence, but if we have people working very hard, come up with a sentence like this, and other people come with other sentence and so on, then maybe we can have all these sentences again and then distill it some more so that at the end, after 5 years and so on, it may be a very long game. We may have AI, clobbering a lot of stuff, the Terminator, it all comes in. But if we can still distill everything into finally one sentence, and we can feed to all AI saying that this is it, it can change the situation very drastically. I'm thinking in the most positive way of how we can contribute, where you and I may feel that it is futile. We won't be able to get it and so on, but unless we do it, it will never start. Now, another angle you can think about is like I mentioned, in North America, the philosophical and ethical consideration is very different. The way how we do it compared to in Europe. Europe is not doing a lot of R&D in the development sense, not as much as North America. China is also doing something like this, but they're also taking a different route. They're not trying to make it better and better and better, but they're trying to democratize it so that a lot of companies are already using it, a good enough model. So how do they fare? Is the European better off? They're self-criticizing, saying that, well, why are we arguing about the ethical issue? We haven't got anything developed. All the large language models and so on, most of them are in North America. So those are the kind of debates you see as well, is people saying that, well, let's not worry about it. Let's not go to the very, very leading edge of it, because if we don't, China is going to do it. And so those are kind of arms race that we are dealing with. And is there a optimal way of looking at it and so on? Very difficult to say. Very difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love the idea that we're kind of trying to condense it into this like kind of one pager. I think it'll be so kind of challenging for us, and it will take a lot of research to kind of narrow down and a lot of internal debate within the group as to what we prioritize and different angles that we look at. So I think that's brilliant. I think my only last concern is that we have to create like kind of a final report or a presentation that we showed to the class and obviously our teacher. So maybe as that we could create this one pager for you, but then as also maybe not, you don't have to necessarily look at it or whatever. We make a kind of presentation or a final report in the background that shows what we've looked at, what we've debated, and all these kind of discussions that we had along the way to get to that final one pager
Yes.
that we submit to you.
Absolutely. I think if you do a storytelling for your presentation, it could be very, very compelling. Even starting with this video as a,
Yeah.
as a very kickoff, and then you say, no, no, we consider all of that, and we really work hard into distilling it into this conclusion, and based on all these assumptions, and so there are gaping holes. We know there are gaping holes. How do we fix that? Well, that is for maybe the future class and so on to also think about something like that based on the pioneering work that the five of you are doing, for example.
Yeah, of course. I love that kind of timeline that will really show kind of what we thought about and what we've got to. Sorry, I know I said last one. I know we have a second meeting with you before we present the final one. So would it be fine during that session to do something similar like this? And perhaps we show you where we're at, and maybe you have a couple ideas just on the spot of have you considered this, or I'm not sure that's the right approach, that kind of thing. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We can arrange to have another office hour, or one or two. That's perfectly fine. I find this to be absolutely, absolutely meaningful in terms of contribution to our civilization. So
Yeah. And just on that, I'd like to thank you obviously for taking your time out. I know that, I mean, perhaps it's not about how much you get out of it, but it certainly helps us. And often, like I chose this course, I'm from econ and I know Alex is as well, but we chose this because it's something that's rarely offered at university, and it's something that we're really interested in studying. And it's so kind of you to kind of contribute some of your time in this field kind of helping our development within it. So yeah, that's all from me. But thank you so much. Anyway, I'm sure other people might have something to say.
Okay, Toby.
Actually, Hattie had a question, but she had to leave, so I'll just ask it for her. She has a question more about like I don't know if it's that useful for a project, but we were curious about if you would be interested in using AI maybe in the future in your business to like simplify or speed things up in the process of for example like the exams that people have to take or the questions they answer. Um, or if you like your principles would be against that in terms of your company.
Absolutely. We're already talking to an AI company from Australia. They want to say, hey, Patrick, we can do simulation. We can do role playing. So students can play the role of an interviewee, and somebody else can play the interviewer. Or in a team environment, if you have conflict, if you have frictions, disagreement, how do you solve that? So AI can do that. We'll see how well they're doing. They seem to be doing very, very well, and got some very prestigious universities to jump on board, for example, in that regard. So yes, AI is definitely useful. But of course, what keeps me up at night is, yeah, I know, you guys are all good guys. I'm talking about the Australian AI company. They're all good guys. They're all very sharp and so on. What what if that AI all of a sudden behave erratically, just spewing out, filth and obscenity and all that? Um, what is there to guarantee that? So that again, it's coming back to the very first thing that I was thinking about is if we're going to use it, how can we guarantee something like that is not going to happen, which will damage our reputation, IITTI's reputation, not to mention all the embarrassment and so on. With the hundreds of thousands or millions of users out there, young people using that, you don't want to have even one or two cases. It's like flying. The safety record is so high. We got tens of thousands of airplanes every day flying the world, and everybody is safe. Everybody lands. Those are the kind of assurance we need to have with AI in the long run.
Well, thank you for your answer and your time. I think for me, I also like the guys already asked all the questions I had. Once again, thank you for your time. I think the next meeting, well, you seem really open, like for us to just contact you whenever, but our teacher like wants the second meeting to be between February 23 and March 9. So
Okay.
we'll probably contact you around that time.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I run by emails. I'm old
Yeah,
school. So send me an email and then we can set up a time again. No problem.
yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. I don't know if you any of the my teammates have questions.
All good from me.
Mm.
All good from me as well.
Okay,
Me
Cameron?
neither. No,
Okay.
yeah, it's all good.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
So you have a good evening
Yeah.
and have fun with this journey.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so
Okay,
much.
thank you so
See you soon.
much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.